After our first year, I think our revenue was maybe about 600,000, and then we've quickly grown it up to about 1.5 million, and our goal this year is 2. We're looking on track. My name is James Carpenter, and with my business partner, Jimmy Fox, we are Evolve Health Digital, which is a bespoke consulting firm that focuses on digital health in Australia.
If we go back to the start, like when you started the business out, you had a vision for your business and where you wanted it to go. And then there was a period of time you're like, oh, is that after the first 12 months? Can you just maybe share a little bit what was going on in your mind, let's say before starting with AG?
Yeah, I think I had a vision of what the business could be based on what my previous jobs were. And I'd sort of done some live fire testing of concepts before I made the commitment to start the business. As you start, you come across obstacles and you have to be fairly agile in your thinking when you're looking for the thing that you can provide that's valuable to people and that you can also deliver it. So there were certainly some fluid things that were going on where we were sort of testing the market, testing our relationships with people to see what things they would trust us with versus a multinational, and where the kind of, sweet spots were for scale, where they were for brand and things like that. And what I mean, like, is our place in the world changed, our vision of that changed somewhat with every conversation. And the more conversations you have, the clearer it gets, because you sort of start to sort of narrow it down to, as a startup, we can do that. If we have a great team and the team is the value, then this is what people will be able to, stomach. So for us, that was the first real value that we got from AG, was really understanding where we were on the journey and what the journey would look like. And that there would be times of happy and joy, and then there would be times of concern where we would have to go and say, okay, now is the time when we invest in more salespeople, we invest in systems, we invest in admin staff, even though, we've just ridden a wave of revenue and profit and just paid ourselves properly. Should we be doing this now? That confidence to make those decisions at the time is what AG gave us.
Yeah, and obviously being part of AG, there's a whole network of people in their community that get to share. How's that impacted you?
Oh, look, I think it just gives you automatic experience, because you go and talk to people who've been doing it 5, 10, 15, 20 years, and they've gone through every problem. They've, seen every challenge. You can literally, walk into a group like AG and say, I don't know anything about employing a VA from overseas. Does anybody know that? And there'll be like 5 people who have got them. They'll be able to tell you exactly what happened, the pitfalls, the problems, the benefits, what they're paid, how to do it properly. And, that saves you a year of trial and error doing it yourself. And if you multiply that by, 200 questions, you can't buy that kind of experience.
Yeah, that's true. So what would you put down as maybe the top 1 or 2 attributes that would help you? Obviously, you came with a lot of, the way I think about it is like clay. You're molding the clay. You obviously have all the pieces of clay with it, but you're molding this thing into an incredible business. What were maybe the 1 or 2 or 3 things that you picked up from AG that's really helped you to refine that to build a really remarkable business?
I think you've got to always be listening for that customer conversation. People are telling you, the market is telling you what it wants, and you got to be listening rather than telling. That's the kind of foundational one. I think you also want to be finding people who are really coaches and mentors that are around you who can give you some of that advice. And there's a guy who always gives us gems, because he's not the same personality as us. He sees the world differently. And you would know him, his name's Nick Farrow. He always gives us a different perspective and challenges what we think by making suggestions. And we kind of go, yeah, okay, maybe there's a different way, maybe there's a better way. So we're always sort of looking for that kind of counter view. I'm very much of the opinion that people who are counterintuitive, offer some of the best value, because they're things you haven't thought about yet.
Just curious, James, if I was to talk to your wife 2-3 years ago, at least before AG, what would she have said around James and how he shows up business-wise, and also even outside the business, as particularly, working hard in the business, but what would she have said about James?
In the beginning, I was very unsure about how things were going. And we sort of, every time we would win something, it'd be almost like a fluke. Like, that's kind of how we thought about it. It was like, okay, fantastic. So it's unbelievable that people would give us money. So I guess probably externally, I was kind of pretty stressed. It was a lot harder to start your own business than what I kind of imagined it was going to be. And a lot of the challenges are a lot different And as I said earlier, like some of the skills you need, you don't have, you think you do. And, I knew quite a bit about accounting, but having to get really into it and make decisions based on some accounting principles is a lot deeper knowledge than what I had. So, I was learning so much so quickly, and, I was probably super grumpy and tired all the time, but that's kind of, that may be what she says. Probably, but.
And what would you say she says now?
Well, she's got a lot of confidence, and I think we all have a lot of confidence that the business has become something that's sustainable, and that as long as we keep our eyes open and keep the conversations happening and the activity in the right place, then there's an opportunity for us to really do something that's fantastic, that delivers value to our industry and provides our family with some of the opportunities that not everybody gets. So I think she would say that we're in a much better place emotionally, a lot more confident about the future than when we were a few years ago. And I think also we're achieving things and working with more and more people, and there's more and more fun in our business. And we want our business to be really fun. We don't want it to be a corporate culture full of metrics and sales managers that work off scorecards. We want it to be a people-centric operation. And, we have a kind of maximum fun thing, which is pretty hard these days because our workforce is, largely work from home, largely interstate or international. So we have to kind of make do with what we've got in the technology world and try and have a fun culture that people get organically rather than through events and things.
And to see that vision that you started out with in the business, to see it getting fulfilled, how does that, and it's still early days, but even in that short period of time, you've 4x'd your business in really 2.5 years. How does that make you feel to see that this vision that you started out, even outside the money, is coming into reality?
It makes you feel great, obviously. I think especially my personality is, kind of the creator, building things, building models that work, building this, and to kind of see that, people are giving us the right feedback to say that, like, your ideas are different. They've generated a different feel to what was in the industry. They're generating opportunities in a new way, and that they can be part of it and share that success, but not in a, it's either us or them type way. It's we're both winning.
If you look at, since working with AG, what have been the top 2 or 3 tools, templates, processes that have helped you to really, 4 times your business? What are the top ones that come to mind for you, James?
I think definitely the number one for me, because I do a lot of the corporate functions, is the 13-week rolling cash flow. That has really helped us. A lot of our contracts are 12-month upfront payable. So we get the cash upfront, but then we're going to have costs throughout the year. So we have to make sure that we forecast that really well. One thing that we talk to our clients and our team about a lot is the concept of knowing is not doing. We really like that. We often put it together with the 1-3-1 framework for kind of creative thinking. Knowing is not doing. So come up with the real problem and then work some plans and then come up with a solution.
Just on the 1-3-1, because you guys are just smart. You've delegated before, but the 1-3-1 method is a very simple and elegant way to delegate, and the way we say is elevate. But what I see happen is a lot of really smart people in business, they'll employ other smart people, and then what ends up happening, they end up getting octopus syndrome. And that is like there's one brain, that's the founders or the leaders, there's lots of tentacles and everything sucks, because the decision has to come to one person. So do you want to maybe explain what the 1-3-1 is and how you are utilizing it within your organization?
Yeah, sure. I think where we've seen this be most valuable is working with people who have come from big organizations, government or corporate, pretty much the same. At some point, they lose the ability to really make analytical decisions about situations because they're so used to asking and being told. And teams are really weak when they have to ask and be told everything. It's because they're now completely reliant on the leader to tell them everything. And they just get used to that. And we've come across people who are brilliant, but just can't make a decision about anything because they're so used to not making them. And so to break that habit, what we do is that we kind of tell people to either write it down or whiteboard it and say, tell me in like 10 words or less what the problem is. And if you can't do it in 10 words or less, you're kind of not really thinking about it, right? You're overcomplicating it for some reason. Then creating 3 potential solutions 3, I think, is the right number, because 1 is always like crazy, like, let's get PwC in to do it for us or something like that. And then the other end of it is we'll do nothing. And so the last one is probably the best one. People think about their problems, days, weeks, years in advance, and they've come across this before, so they've probably already worked it out. And then they give you the one at the end, which they think is the one that's going to work. And that's going to be the one that they've been thinking about for a long time. So it's just a way of changing the dynamic between, you work for a leader and that leader tells you what to do, to you work for a leader and you tell that leader what you're going to do. And unless it's completely crazy or without, outside budget, then all their job is to go, yes, that looks great, or maybe you can tweak it a little bit, but you're on the right track. And then you've got a different relationship.
Which then means that you can elevate you can stay strategic. But also the cool thing is, from a culture perspective, they're learning and growing. There's a sense of autonomy and mastery that kicks into gear when they're doing that as well, because you're actually now beginning that whole culture piece. Then you're beginning to create what we call like an exitable, I'm not saying you will exit, but an exitable business, because the organism itself of the business can think for itself, rather than being one key or two key people. They leave and all of a sudden, the decision making sort of goes out the window. What was the other tool or template for you, that thinking process that's really helped you guys to do such a great or make such great progress?
I think it's all around your calendar, having the default diary or whatever version of it that you call it. We have a thing that we say to people, especially our clients, because all of our clients tell us how busy they are. And we say to them, your calendar doesn't lie. Your calendar tells the truth. If you go through your calendar and you go, I'm spending 40 hours a week doing rubbish meetings, you've had a rubbish week. So that kind of confronting look at it, we try and tell people that, use that for your own thing. Like, look at your own work, look at your own time investment, and say, I'm spending all this time doing things which are low value, or I'm doing all this thing for other people that they should be doing, or I'm doing all the wrong things, or I never get to the right things because I'm always doing other stuff. Your calendar can give you so many kind of hints about your value and about the value you're bringing. And if you do a default diary, and you've got a couple of really good examples of where the things that are really important, like working on big rock type activities, or working on your cash flow forecast, or doing proper team delegation, you put those in first, and then you make sure they never move.
I love it. Great. So I'll ask you to finish this sentence. I almost didn't become a member of AG because...
Probably because I am naturally skeptical of maybe groups, that kind of thing. I guess being in sales and marketing for my entire career, I've seen a lot of pitches, and I'm always pretty skeptical about what's valuable. So that was probably the first thing. Do we really want to be part of some, kind of organization like that, which will be, full of people that aren't like us? It'll be entrepreneurs who are in different industries. But I actually think that's one of the values of AG that we didn't see, is that talking to people who are in different industries, in different locations, can still give you incredibly good insights. Different, but incredibly good.
Yeah. And actually, to that point, what we see is people, when they stay within an industry, they get a myopic view. And generally speaking, the innovation will often come from an innovation in one industry that you get to apply in yours. So it's actually the cross-pollination that is one of the key parts. And who would you recommend Abundance Global to, and why?
I would recommend Abundance Global to anybody who's sort of got going in business. Your service or product is a concept, it's a going concern, but it's then, how do I run the business part of it? So it's, how do I learn the skills? How do I pick up the network of professionals that I'll need, that are right for me, that are the right cost, the right size? How will I meet people who I can talk to? Because, even if you're in a group of people who are successful and whatnot, you probably won't have that many genuine entrepreneurs in your immediate trusted network or family. And finding, say, 10 people like that is super hard. So finding a group like AG can really make that easy, and it's kind of, it's high quality because they're already in the network. I think AG has been really rewarding for us, and the value that we're getting from it is different than what we thought it was going to be. Maybe it's because we've changed as we've gone on with a couple of years. We now, there are some people there that are just really excellent, and their businesses are very mature and large. And so we've got another kind of cohort that we can start interacting with on a different level. We're no longer looking for, a marketer or an insurance broker. We're looking for, partnerships that will take us to the next horizon. And there's always someone at AG who's done that a few years ago, so they can tell you how it went.
Love it, God. Well, really proud of the progress you're having. You've 4x your business in like a few years now. It's epic. And, given that your industry is one that I think needs a lot of help and a lot of support, it gets a lot of criticism at the same time. You guys are doing such a great job. And we just want to massively say, well done, well played. You guys have done a great job. And guess what? We just got to the starting line. We're just warming up. Love it.
Thank you, Dave. Really appreciate it.